Hello, fam. How are ya? I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and I'm coming to you in the middle of the day for a good reason. This one we've been trying to put together for a hot minute, and then I would say about 2 or 3 weeks ago, it became really obvious that there was probably one day that more than any other day in the year would be the time to do this. So we are doing this today in honor of Quietgirl, and more importantly, as a memorial to her dad. So welcome to the boat. How
Hi.
are you?
I'm
How
doing
are
good.
you? Good.
Doing
You know
good.
what? We're really happy to have you. We really are. You know what? Tell me a little bit about how you found the boat.
I found you because of Danny Masterson and Aaron Levin, and watching you talk about prison and recovery and getting through recovery.
It had to be the first one that we did.
Yeah, it was.
Because I was looking back to our first correspondence, and we've actually been talking for a while.
Yeah.
We have been. A little background: Quiet Girl is on the East Coast, so she's
Yep.
actually frighteningly close to the part of Philly they call Kensington. So
Yes.
has a little bit of perspective on that as well. But what we're here
A
today
huge
to
perspective.
yeah. I mean, much better than any of us, obviously. And I've said before, I bought drugs in Kensington in the early '90s, and it was crazy back then, but it looked like a neighborhood. I mean, you kind of had to know where to go. It wasn't just
It's a
ubiquitous
nightmare.
where every single place you look there's somebody nodding out on trank. But here's the way we usually do this. First of all, it's just you and me talking, and we've done a bunch of this, right?
Yeah, we have.
Okay, so it's just going to be you and me talking, and this is an opportunity for you to tell people about you and your dad and your relationship between the two of you. And you know what? I think that there are going to be a lot of people that hear their story, and if not all of it, a lot of it in your story. So what I'm going to do is just kind of kick it over to you, and start where you think the start is, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Everyone, my father is a first generation Irish American, and his father owned a bar. At the age of like 13, 14 years old, he started drinking. He met my mother at 17, and they got married and had my sister and then had me. Um, we moved a lot when we were younger, and moved. I was actually born in Pennsylvania and then moved to Virginia. We lived there for 3 months, and then we moved to California, Northridge, California, near where the Spawn Ranch and the Manson family was.
Oh
And
wow!
then 9 months later, almost to the year of the murders, my father moved to Indiana, and that's kind of where my memories start.
Right. That's about the time you came online.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember back as young as 4. Um, my dad used to do these things with me, not my sister, just me alone, and he would make Saturday dates with me, and I would get so excited. And I'd be like, "Okay, Dad, wake up. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Where are we going? Where are we going?" And he was like, "Let me sleep." And we would eventually go out to a bar. And at 4 years old, you don't understand what a bar is. And so you just figure it's a cool restaurant to go with your dad.
Right.
And it was set up kind of like a restaurant. So you would walk into the bar, you would walk in and it would be like booths and stuff, and then upstairs would be a bar. But every time after we would leave, he would take me to see the pigs, because where we lived in Indiana and Fort Wayne, there was a pig farm. Oops. right around where we lived.
Uh-huh.
And so we would go see the pigs. 8 years later, we moved to Pennsylvania.
So the
And that's
first
when the horse.
so the first time you saw like he was exposing you to sort of his lifestyle at 4, and he said, it kind of looked like a restaurant. At 4, you really there's just no point of reference anyway. You know what I mean? When people are 4 years old, you look at people who are in refugee camps or who are going through anything, and the kids are playing because there's just no
Yeah,
point of reference. Everybody else there thinks this is where I am, and it used to be like this. But when you're 4 years old, there is
yeah,
no it used to be like this. So you probably were under the assumption that on Saturdays everybody's dad took them to a place where people all hung
pretty
out and
much.
sat. Yeah, I mean
Pretty
there's no
much.
reason to think anything different. So from there you're back
Yeah,
to Pennsylvania.
yeah. But I mean, when we lived in Indiana, like my dad would he would always call, and this went through my whole life. It was, instead of calling getting me a beer, it was get me a stone. And he would drink a stone. Get me, that was his nickname for it. Get me a stone car. Get me a stone baby. Get me a stone Mickey. It was always another reference. And we would be watching football games and everything. And then when we moved back to Pennsylvania, he was around my uncle, who was also an alcoholic. So it was this kind of always thing that would keep going. And when we were younger and my mom started working, because she started working when we moved back to Pennsylvania, he would have us on the weekend. And his escape, he would say, not like I'm going out to meet a man about a horse, but
Right.
like I got to go to the store, I'll be back. And then slowly but surely we started understanding that it was Larry's Happy Tap that my dad would go to. And things started, I mean, I was 8. So slowly but surely things started making more
Sure.
sense.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to understand where he was coming from, or where was this guy? Now, a lot of kids would grow up in a situation like that and go, "What in the world is going on? Why does my dad leave the house one way and come home another?"
Sure.
And be like that all the time. And he was a workaholic. So not only was he an alcoholic, he was a workaholic. And this is something that we had to deal with on like a regular basis. And my mom would be like, basically, my mom kind of put it off. Like she would never really talk about it or get
Right.
involved with it or anything. And honestly, I mean, you would think alcoholic and workaholic and screaming and yelling and beatings and this and that. My dad yelled at me once because me and my sister didn't clean the house while my mom was at work. Once. That's all I remember.
Did your mom use? Was your mom a drinker, or did
My
she?
mom hates alcohol.
So you think the addiction was it just codependency? Was she just addicted to taking care of your dad or dealing with it, or
N- no, it was love.
you think it was just love?
It was love. I mean, she kept thinking he was going to change.
Yeah.
She thought she she tells me now more than anything, like, this is going to stop. At some great point, this is going to stop. But it never did.
Yeah.
And with my father being who he was, I mean, even as kids, like living where we were, my dad was like, I want to take you to New York City. And he would take us to dinners. And we would always end up at a bar.
Right.
To this day, if you asked me like what my dad drank, it was a Manhattan up with a twist with a side of rocks. To this day. And it was a granddad Manhattan. And we knew it. Me and my sister could order the drink without thought. And that was just the way it was.
Was this
And
at the time where at what point, just so that I get this clear, at what point did your dad become a bar owner? At this point, is he working at the bar?
no, my father worked for a printing company, which is why we got
Okay.
transferred so much. A lot of people think that that's because you're like a military kid or whatever. He just kept getting
Right.
transferred and transferred and transferred. He was actually a vice president of a company. So his general work was New York, Washington, Philadelphia, all over the place. And through years and years and years, he ended up losing his job through, and I don't want to get political, but the Bush administration, the first one. And he lost his job, and he thought, he went back to his father, who always taught him, you know, you never work for somebody else, Jimmy. You always work for yourself. So my dad's plan
Right.
was to own an Irish bar, and he bought one that was in existence for 100 years.
For 100 years?
And my first reaction, yeah, it dates
Wow.
back to the IRA, to Black Sunday, which was they had church in the bar.
Right.
Um, and when he first purchased it, I said to him, I said, Dad, please, whatever you do, don't get high on your own supply. Whatever you do.
Right.
Well, that gave him liberty. And my dad was a good father. I mean, he did everything for me, for my mom, for my sister, for my son. He was my son's best friend. And yet there was this alcohol that was attached to who he was.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a story, and I really would love for everyone to know. There was a story my dad and my mom both told me, well, that my father was at a bar drinking, and he was with a bunch of his friends sitting on a stool, and he was getting pretty lit. And I mean, for my dad's point of reference would be, for me as a kid, would be dad would leave for work in the morning and he would come home happy as hell. Sorry, but he would. He would just
Yeah.
come home happy and exuberant and just rifling through and just, oh, look at what a great day everything is. And basically, it ended up becoming this story where my father was at this bar and he was drinking, and he said, one of the guys said, I'm taking your keys, I'm driving you home. And I heard that story, and it was the first time I heard it. And my mom was basically telling me, don't, he kept saying to the guy, don't let Aunt Joyce find out I'm drunk. Don't let her find out. Don't let her find out that I'm drunk. So the guy got my dad out of the car, obviously drove him home. My mom answered the door because the guy knocked on the door. And he said, please, whatever you do, don't tell Aunt Joyce I'm drunk. And my mom said to him, I'm Joyce. I'm his wife.
Did he
And that
try
was
did he
kind
try
of,
rehab at any point? Were there any times that he went into a program, or was this just it was just full
no,
bore the entire time? It was
it was full bore um, until he got sick. Um, he owned the bar. We had the bar until 2000.
okay.
And
So and you guys, when did you get the par roughly?
we are in 1992. We
In
owned the bar
'92.
till 2000.
Okay.
He sold the bar literally a week after my best friend died because he worked at the bar, who was also an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Um, so that was part of it. And moving forward, I mean, it was my dad was just drinking all the time. Like, it was out of hand, and my mom knew it. I knew it. My sister knew it. You know, my son didn't know the difference. But the way it escalated over and over and over again. I'm sorry, my thing keeps
Sure, I
timing
got
out.
you.
I
I
don't know
know.
why.
It
Um,
happens to the best of us.
it just keeps it just keeps it the escalation and seeing it more as an adult and
Right.
going through it and understanding it. I mean, it was something that was harsher than a, a child should have to deal with.
I think this is kind of a fascinating point. This is something that, in my experience, I have no point of reference. The my my immediate family, I'm it. Like I'm the spontaneous idiot that sort of there's really nobody in the family tree that kind of points towards what had happened with me and in large part my brother too. But the two of us left the rails. How weird was it when you started to use, when you started to drink, when you started to do things, and all of a sudden, all of those memories from your past that just seemed kind of a bit hinky, you know what I mean? Like they were a little off. Like all of a sudden they just start. This is something that I wrestle with the other direction. I think to myself, as my son grows up and goes through experiences, he has to hit that moment where he goes, "Oh man, Dad was doing that then. Like that was obvious, you know." Was
Well,
it
this
bizarre as you started to live the same life and realize exactly what had happened behind you?
oh, by leaps and bounds. I mean, at 19, I remember very vividly, very, very vividly, my boyfriend coming over to the house and bringing a bottle of Perrier champagne because he had been at the Perrier family mansion in New Hope. And there was a big party, and he had stolen a couple bottles of champagne, and we got so drunk. And I was like, I like this feeling. This is kind of nice. This is good, and it was that was a beginning point for me. And then it became, well, if I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink until I can't feel anything. I'm going to get into bars illegally. I'm going to lie my ass off to drink. I don't care. And I mean, the many nights that I blindingly drove home or didn't even remember how I got in my bed or got my clothes off, and nights when, um, you know, this whole time I basically lived with my parents until I was 25, except for, I was in an abusive relationship in the midst of all of this, and I was, a domestic violence. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I went through a whole gamut, and I ended up in a relationship with a guy when I was like 25, 24, 25 years old. And the synopsis of the whole relationship was every night we're going out and we're going to drink. And every night I ended up on a bar stool. Now, this is Monday through Friday. Now, where was Saturday and Sunday? Well, Saturday and Sunday I had my son. So Monday through Friday, I was at a bar and I was drinking at least 22 shots.
Which
22
is which is a
doubles. So I'm
which
drinking
is a
11
bizarre.
doubles a night.
Yeah, it's a bizarre amount of booze. I mean, what are there? There are 32 of them in a fifth. This is talking about a lot of
Yeah,
booze, and
yeah,
it makes a heck of a lot of sense if you think about it. We talk all the time on the boat about as you start to develop your addiction, it's not just the chemical, right? The ritual and the habit is absolutely massive. And you were 4 years old, and date night with dad, right? Date with dad was you going to a bar. I mean, it makes perfect sense
yeah.
that when you started to enter, the first round of adulthood, that you were going to find somebody that was wanting to live the exact same lifestyle, that was going to want to go and sit on a bar stool and
Oh,
spend time and
yeah.
get loaded. Because again, this is normal. That is your point of reference, right? At what
Right. But
point did
you
it
also
start
have to
scaring the crap out of you?
understand. Where did it
when
really
when
get
did you
me?
start to realize, maybe this is a better question, when did you start
Okay.
to realize that the way that you were living was really different than the way everybody else lived? Do you remember that
I think
moment?
when, um, when I guess when my dad lost the bar, to be honest with you.
I mean,
I
what
mean
I'm saying is, like, I
I mean,
remember
my
my.
my
Go ahead.
my okay, my dead reaction time to this is not the way you're supposed to live was February 2010. I got a phone call from my mom. I'm taking care of my girlfriend's daughter. My girlfriend is an alcoholic. I'm drinking with her all the time. And I get a call from my mom. And the call from my mom is basically, Karen, um, we got a problem. I need you to be at the house at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I said, what's going on? And she said, I need for you to take your father to work. And can you pick him up? And I said, sure. What's going on? Get to the house tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. And I'm taking care of my girlfriend's daughter at this time. I'm in
Right.
Doylestown, which is like 45 minutes from my mom. And I'm like, I'll be there. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my world's collapsing. What's going on? My father, what is going on? So I get to the house and she says to me, your dad lost his license. He had a second DUI. And
Oh
I
wow.
need you to get him back and forth to work. He's 69. So he's been drinking now for 55 years.
Good Lord.
Or
Yeah. So at this point, it's starting to
And
really, really take a toll. That much alcohol for that much time is just.
my world collapsed. But it got worse. And I didn't realize the veracity of it, the absolute size, the magnitude that it was going to take on me. I really didn't. Um, from 2010 in that February, um, I drove my dad to work every day, and I drove him home every day. Um, about a year in to that, um, he was diagnosed with wet brain disease, which is a disease that alcoholics get.
Yeah. The.
And it was excruciating. And then I was taking him to the doctor for medication for his heart because he's had 5 heart attacks already. And at one point, you would think, oh, I'm going to wake up. This is all a dream. It's going to be over, but it wasn't. And then it went to dementia. And then it went to colon cancer. And then it went to Parkinson's. And then it went to aphasia. And for those who don't understand what aphasia is, it's where you
your
lose your
ability to
complete
communicate
ability. My
is
father
gone.
couldn't talk.
Yeah.
He couldn't talk to me.
It's
And during this time, I'm also going through getting on disability. And thank God I got it because I'm mentally ill. I have bipolar disorder and I panic. I have anxiety. I have dealt with this my whole life. I'm a suicide survivor. I wear these badges proudly. Um, and my mom is now working 7 days a week to support their house, just to keep them afloat, to pay the bills, to pay the mortgage. And I'm there, you know, taking care of my dad. Pretty much 14, 16 hours a day. And I'm in a house with somebody who can't speak, who can't, who needs a walker to get to and from the bathroom.
the so toward that
And the
at the
only
very
person
end, did they
Mhm.
start to when he was diagnosed with water on the brain? Did he continue to drink after that?
At that
Was
point,
that
my mom, when he could no longer drive, At that second DUI, my mom pulled the rug out from under him and said, "No more. We're done. We are done. There is no alcohol in this house." She took his keys away. She even traded in his car so he couldn't even leave the house
Wow.
without me or my mother. And
Wow.
that was her point where she literally said, "Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Look what you've done to yourself."
Yeah, sadly, that's not. If you have never heard of this, if this is something you're not familiar with, wet brain is a term that has kind of fallen out of favor, and they have a much longer name for it right now that I can't think of off of the top of my head. But it's
Oh, believe
it's
me, I
just
don't
as
know
she
what it is
described.
either.
You develop to where this cerebral spinal fluid that normally cushions the brain and hangs out in your skull. You get more of it, and it literally begins to water down, and it eats at the brain very, very quickly. The amount of damage that gets done very, very fast, and very often the large parts of the personality of the person you knew. It almost resembles a lobotomy. It's pretty frightening stuff to watch. That had to be hell on you. At this point, when all of this is going on and the responsibility is all on you, Karen, how is your usage at this point? Are you using to get through this? Are you at what phase in your walk are you at the point at which your dad is starting to really come apart?
I'm at 4 Klonopins a day.
Oh Lord. So you were taking
And that was
four.
4 milligrams a day, once a day. I mean, it was morning, noon, night, morning, evening, night. Which is why I'm on my Klonopin taper now. I'm down to 0.75 for 1 month.
No, I mean that's huge. That's
Where's my
huge. If
trophy?
if you're on the
Where's
boat and
my
you would,
trophy?
yeah, right
Tommy,
here. I
where's my
promise you,
trophy?
it is right here. I had a feeling this was going to come out more than once. I've actually reached for it a few times. That's huge. If you're on the boat and you have never messed with benzos, clonazepam's tough, right? That's up there. That's the top of the food chain for benzos in this country. There are some stronger ones, but not in the U.S. anymore. It really is a kick, and to do four of those, your body is viciously dependent. We think of
Yeah,
opiate addiction as having that physical dependency. It's kids play compared to the physical dependency you get on benzos. So I'm glad that they're taking you down slow, Karen. I think that's huge because the more you can taper that, and I
yeah.
mean taper it, the better off you're going to be.
I
That's
dropped down again
courageous
on
as hell.
Thursday. I dropped out. Yeah,
Thursday,
I dropped down again on Thursday to point 0.5. But you asked about how I actually managed it.
right?
Um, my father was my best friend and my hero. He still remains on a pedestal. Um, he was the greatest part of my whole life. So taking on what I took on, um, he was my cheerleader. I was in a mental hospital for 3 months and 5 days, and yes, he took me to bars and restaurants and drank in front of me, and it didn't faze me because it was my dad. It was my father, the
Yeah,
man that made me who I was. And I mean, he would cheer me on, like even through the beginning stages where he could talk to me and he would say, I'd be like in the car and we'd be driving him to work, and I'd be like, "Yeah, Dad, I got to go to therapy this afternoon." And he's like, "Well, have fun." And then I'd pick him up after my appointment and take him home. And how was therapy? What happened? Was it a good day? You know? And this is the kind of guy he was. But when he broke down and it was so bad that I was basically living 12, 16 hours a day at my parents' house and then only going home to get changed, take a shower, and go to bed and try to recover to the next
yeah,
morning. um uh that's when it got kind of crazy.
yeah.
um because then I was changing diapers, and I was helping him go to the bathroom, and I was bringing him his lunch. And I remember arguing with him at one point and saying to him, "Do you want to watch the Eagles or do you want to watch MSNBC?" And I made him yell at me, yes or no. And it was like pulling words from his toenails. And he just yelled at me. I said, "You want to watch the Eagles?" And he goes, "No." And he just started screaming, and it stopped. And the only thing he could ever say to me was whisper, "I love you."
Oh,
And those are the only words for the last year and a half I ever heard.
boy, if you can only hear a few of
That
them, though, he
everything
chose
was,
wisely, didn't he? Those are
yeah,
the words.
yeah, he did. But the
So at this and during
I
this
remember
time,
one
so not
night,
only are you taking on all of the responsibilities of really what an orderly would do in a hospital, really tough work, very very tough work, and
yeah,
humiliating if you're doing it to somebody else, but to doing it to a parent is tough. This is a very difficult thing, and number one,
oh no, he made it funny. He made it
well,
funny.
number one, I respect the hell out of this. It's something that parents go through it. My dad needed help, and the people that helped him, I have more love for than I can possibly explain because I wasn't there to do it myself, and it really it's something that means a huge amount to me. But during this time, there's zero self care. You're doing nothing for you. I mean, because what you're describing is you get up, you go over there, right? It's all day long. You're doing 4 Klonopin a day to get through this, right? Which is
Yeah.
a crap load of
And I was on
benzo.
14 antidepressants.
You were
14
taking 14.
different drugs.
Was this all from one doctor?
Yes.
Does it make you wonder I mean, how is it even possible to give somebody, you know what I mean? You have to be crossing over like 6 different families of
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah, I
make any sense
was.
to me at all. It doesn't make any
It
sense to me
was
at all.
literally, I
So,
mean, medically they figured it out. I'm now only on 2 antidepressants, and I mean, as little as absolutely possible. My doctors are awesome that I work with now. I have a care team which is phenomenal. I praise them every single day. Um,
and you are
and the only
your own
reason
best advocate.
the only way I actually quit seeing him was because he was getting old and I didn't want him to die on me. I couldn't handle losing another person. I've already, I mean, m- m- through medical, 2 of my psychiatrists died and a therapist died. 2
Good Lord.
and 1. And yeah, I mean, it's just the way it goes. And I mean, this is something I've accepted death over and over and over again. But with my father, it was different. I mean, my dad even though he had dementia and Parkinson's and wet brain disease, and he was going through all these different things and having a big part of his colon removed and all that, my father actually was funny. I mean, he still had his senses about him, and he knew how to make me laugh. I mean, I don't know. I'm 5'2", and my dad was 6'4", and I'm trying to get him into a bed without him getting hurt. And he's like at home because my dad was a proud man, and so I figured out to get him in the bed was, okay, Dad, we're going to dance like the OJs and do the sidestep to get into the bed, and it worked. One day he got out of the bathroom on me without me being able to see him. And I mean, he's laying on the bed in his underwear, like an actual pair of underwear, looking like Marky Mark, modeling, and escaping the bedroom. And he was so mouse quiet through this whole period of time. Like he would get out of the bed with my mom, and he would get out of the bed with my mom, and in the middle of the night, my mom wouldn't hear him, and he would just walk around the house with his walker, and she wouldn't hear that.
Right.
It was it was crazy, and my mom didn't tell me. I stopped taking care of my father in April of 2014 because it was getting to just too much for me.
Uh-huh.
And within a month, he was in the hospital with pneumonia, and then he went to rehab with after the pneumonia. Came home, and he went back home. And one night, she called the house. And she asked my roommate, "I gotta come get you. Something's wrong with Jim." And the ambulance is coming. And he walked into the house and he saw my father. My father loved him and was like, "Rats!" Last word he said. Screamed. And they took him to St. Mary's, and the doctor said immediately he was completely dehydrated and really sick. And my mom, they looked at my mom and they said to my mom, "We can put him in ICU." She said, "My husband has more pride than that." And they put him in hospice. And the next day I went to hospice and I talked to him for 2 hours. And the only way he could answer me was by shaking my hand, that he understood what I was saying and agree with me and hear me. And I went to leave and I hugged him and I said, "I love you, Daddy. I'll be back tomorrow. I promise." And I took a minute and I hugged him again and I told him I loved him. And the next morning, um, I thought he was going to be okay. I really did. I thought I'd see him the next day. And apparently, my mom got a call at like 3 in the morning, and my sister was at the house with her, and they went to the hospital. And the priest had come down to do morning prayer, and my father was accepting morning prayer, and during morning prayer, he passed away, and they gave him last rites. And then 6 hours later, my mom called me and told me, you know,
6 hours?
he's gone. Yeah.
And that was in 2014, correct?
Yeah.
So now, and this is
8/14/14.
probably, this has got to be, yeah, the reason we're here today is this is the anniversary of that day.
Yeah.
Now what? Right? So your dad passes, and this is your
Yeah.
best friend. It's the center of your universe. And um, where do you go from there? At this point, you're still on the Klonopin, right? Are you still on a duffel bag full of antidepressants? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
for real, are you still on 14 at this
I
at this
was
point?
I was for I was for real on a duffel bag of antidepressants until about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Um, I was on, I had gotten myself down to 2, which it went to 1, which was maintenance for a long time, and then, the antidepressants slowly disappeared, um, through different doctors, and, it was, awful. It was absolutely awful. I mean, coming off of it was actually laughable in a way because I had my new doctor, and she, was very like, at the time, I didn't have a psychiatrist, so all the drugs I had were, like, leftover drugs from my other doctor. So it
Right.
was, "Okay, put up or shut up. Either you're gonna keep taking it or you're gonna get a new psychiatrist." And my psychiatrist that I found were awful. They just wanted to add more, if you can believe that.
I have no
It
problem
wasn't like,
believing that at
oh,
all.
and it got up to about 16. And then I said, I can't live like this anymore. I can't. So I got myself down to 1 milligram of Klonopin, which was a maintenance dose. And honestly, thanks to you, everyone on the lifeboat, every person that reaches out to me, you all give me the strength that I've gotten through this last month. I wouldn't have done this without any one of you at all. It has been hell. And doing what I'm doing right now on a taper is so emotional. I was crying all day. But I want you all to know from my heart how much you, Tommy, Heather Joy, Charlie, Misha, V, Leisure, Val,
It's quite a
Allison,
crew, isn't it?
Dennis, everybody, how much you mean to me, how much you've changed my life, how every day you change my life one bit more. Because without you, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Well, the this is a great group of people, and you make it better. You really do. The From the first day you arrived, it was this was obviously a good fit, and I think everybody kind of felt that right from Jump Street. And you know what? This is hard to come on here and do this, and to do this on the day of the anniversary of your dad's death. This is hard. Like I'm 3 years away from losing my dad, and there's even if your life runs similar parallel courses, and ours didn't, but the number of people in the comments section that were putting up, just similar things, experiences that they have gone through. And I was reading it, and it was one person after another who said, my father was this, or my father was that. You touched a lot of people today, and the people that are going to see this, for a long time to come. These things stay up, and it's amazing. They take on a life of their own. Sometimes, you see videos that you did a year ago, but thousands of people will see this, and there are going to be a lot of people that have probably gone through the same experience. Before we open this up to questions or anything else, if you could give yourself advice, if you could go back to 2014, knowing what you know right now, what advice would you give yourself for the healing process, for what was going to be coming? Because it's a rugged thing. That moment when you lose something that important.
What would I do?
What would be your
What
advice
would
to
I say?
yourself?
What would be my advice to myself? Exactly the
Yeah, I'll
advice
give
I
you an
give
example.
myself
If I could go
today.
back to 14, I would say to myself, I promise you, you pick that up and smoke it, you're going to destroy the rest of your life. Like, that would have been my advice. You know what I mean? Like, right then, right there. If there was something that you could tell yourself at that moment, that would have made it easier from 2014 to now, what would you have said? What would you have done? What would you have changed? Could you have
I
changed
wouldn't have
anything?
changed a minute of it.
No?
Nothing. Not one moment. Because the 2 years that I basically was living in my parents' house, I mean, as much as I was,
Uh-huh.
that 4 years of taking care of him, the 2 constant years out of the 4, were the best time of my
Oh
life.
no, I believe that, hon. I mean, from the day he passed
No,
to
no.
now.
From the day he
That would be the
passed to
advice.
now, from the
Yeah. The coping
from
with
the
it
day he
after he
passed
was
to
gone.
now.
I know you wouldn't have wanted to not be by his side through any of that, of course. Yeah. The
No,
coping
I
with it.
mean, uh, the coping mechanism that I put into place now
Uh-huh.
is dealing with that it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. You're going to get through it. He's going to be with you. He's going to be looking at you. He's going to be watching over you every second of every moment, no matter what you think he's always going to be there. And that's something that I didn't understand at that moment. And I also know that what I'm about to say is going to come from him, which is, don't let this be you. Don't let it take over your life. Don't be me. Don't drag your kids or your parents through the mud because you can't stop.
It's
Let your
frightening.
kids live a beautiful life.
It's frightening the power of addiction. That you can literally drink yourself to death, or drink yourself into a condition where you've destroyed your mind or your body, or a combination of both. And so many of us have done it to some degree. All of us here, for the most part, have done it to some degree. It's frightening that draw. It gives people this should be a big neon sign to every idiot. I'm sorry, in America, that says, it's just a matter of willpower. These are lazy people that would prefer to be drunk or high than go out and do other things. I assure you that this is a disease that is so difficult to control that, in spite of the fact that it's killing you, for some people it is almost impossible.
Well, the worst part, Tommy, is that my father was so high functioning, that, I mean, he was able to control every ball in the air all at once.
Well, you said, yeah, he was a vice
fail.
president. He was traveling, and then he opened his own business. I mean, he sounded like he's very, very high. Like he was definitely functioning. And sometimes that's the worst. I've said many times on the boat that people that crash and burn have a much quicker shot. It's the people that have managed to to just continue doing what they're doing is that's tougher.
Well, the worst part.
Go ahead.
I mean, we slowly see the decline, but when the balls hit the wall, it was over, and it took 4 years. It was kind of like the day after he passed away. My mom went to work, and I yelled at her, and I'm like, "How could you go to work?" And she says, "Well, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit home and cry? Am I going to sit home and cry?" And I said, "No." She said, "Would your father want me to sit home and cry?" And I said, "No." She says, "I'm going to honestly tell you, it's a relief. It's over. He's at peace."
I honestly get that.
That's all that matters.
I honestly believe that. I mean, if you just got here and you didn't hear the decline of conditions, and it spiraled out of control until it got to the point where her dad didn't know where he was or what was going on. I mean, and didn't have the ability, especially to communicate. When aphasia comes in, communication can be done through taps, through things like that, but your ability to take your thoughts and get them into word form is almost impossible. It's what's happening right now to the actor, to Bruce Willis. He's going through that right now, and it's a very, very fast progression.
There's a point in his life, and in him being sick, where I used to quiz him during the day, and I would only do it like once or twice a month, but I would try to keep it on a consistent basis sometimes. And I said to him, "Do you remember Tyler?" And he would shake his head. I said, "Do you remember Lauren?" "Yeah." "Do you remember Mommy?" And he would, "Do you know I'm your daughter?" And he would shake his head, "Yes." And as this progression went, and I don't know what was going on in the house, but he would turn around to me, and I would go through the names: your grandson, your daughter, me. And at one point, and he would always have a smile on his face. And then one day he turns to me, and he actually said, I looked at him and I said, do you know who sleeps next to you?" And he went, he was not happy. I don't know what was going on, but I will let you know that when I asked my mom, I did a huge interview with my mother about this. And because I wanted to be prepared for everything that she had to tell me. And she wanted, she wants me to let you know that the only things that she felt for being married to my father for 52 years, out of the 52 years plus the 4 years they dated, was irritated and hurt. That was it. That she couldn't do more, that there was no way to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. It's if you spend your whole life trying to help your significant other crawl out of something and they're unable to, you're going to put that on yourself, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, I understand why people would do it, because if you dedicated your life to trying, and it's almost like your life's effort was for nothing, was in vain, and it's a difficult thing. And honestly, that people who endure that need counseling more than anyone in the world. She needs to be in a group of people that went through the exact same thing, who can say to her, "Yeah,
She
you know
doesn't
what?
want to.
I know, I
Mm-mm.
know. No one wants to do this.
Mm.
This is the bane of my existence. Trying to
No,
get
no, no,
people
no, no.
to be
She
willing to talk."
is,
Yeah,
yes.
I get it. I get it. I really do.
She's
But sadly,
she's
it's the only
very
way that we heal.
she's very old school.
Of course. Yeah.
She's healing in her own way now.
Yeah.
She's healing in her own way. She's passing information on to me, and that's what makes her life go, is giving me that life, because it was just me and my mom. My sister wasn't there. My son wasn't really around. He was too young, you know, 18 to 21. I mean, 17 to 21. He really didn't understand the gravity of it. I
Yeah.
mean, he misses him, but he doesn't understand it. So, and
Go
you
ahead.
know, if anybody has any questions,
I was going to say
I don't mind
we got just
answering.
under 10 minutes. Let's fire this thing up to you. Can you see the questions?
No,
Do you have the ability to see the questions? Okay. I couldn't. I don't know if you had the ability. If not, I'll call some out of here. But um,
go
the
ahead. I mean, I don't need to see them.
what's
My
that?
mind will just start going like this.
Well,
My
the
mind
the
will just start
number
going like this.
the number of people that said that they agree with you, the number of people who said they feel exactly where you are. Goosebumps has said, she says, "I agree, Kelly. Mom is a role model, and I'm so glad for every minute I had with her." She's referring to how you stuck in there till the very end. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing. Kathy says, and I got to agree. I hope this you take this in how it is, but classic codependency. Codependents generally went through a ton of trauma at some point, and it just there is that honestly sounds like it would be page 4 on the textbook for codependency. I know it's a terrible term and everybody hates it, but you can become addicted to a human
No, not
being.
at all.
You can very easily become addicted to a human being. It happens. And um,
Yeah.
forget all the jargon. That's really what it is. It's an addiction to a human being. It's that love that's so strong, that's so unbelievable, that you become addicted to whatever that person needs, or it's a rugged thing. It really is, and it's very
Well,
difficult to
it's
get
it's
people.
more
Go ahead.
ingrained with me because I it's more ingrained with me because I
Because
carry
it's
my
what you
father's
watched.
traits. My sister doesn't. I
Well, it's
watched it
also
more
how you were
as a
raised.
child. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I knew, but I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like it's two different sides of the coin.
Well, and
Like
this
my
is
sister
the
didn't my
scary
sister
thing
didn't
about
my
what
sister
we
didn't
do to
go that
kids.
direction. Yeah. Yeah.
This is the frightening thing, that what we do to kids and we don't think about it. I know that I did it, to my kids, and we think like we're not using in front of them, and we put all of these rules in to make us feel like we're not as bad as we might really be doing. But um, if the behavior that we do, our kids see, they think the world is that way. Like I remember my
Oh yeah.
son coming home from a sleepover, and saying to us, he came in the door and he went, "They cooked dinner in the house last night. They made dinner there." And I had a friend over at the time that looked at me and just went, "You guys don't cook anything ever, or what?" And, it was just, we were in a phase where we went out a
My
lot.
best friend at
And,
the time, her father was always home. Her father was always home. He never
and
drank. I
you,
didn't understand that.
right.
I
It
didn't
freaked
get
you
it.
out, correct? Yeah.
I didn't get it. I was like, "Why is your dad always home? I don't get this. Like, what do you mean he's home at dinner time?
Right.
My dad comes home at 11 or midnight, with
It
some
was just
adventure,
a
some story."
completely different world. And as you say, until you see what's normal, what you're living is
Mhm.
normal, right? It's
Right.
and that's a frightening experience.
Yeah.
Full of Hope says, my therapist said I owed my parents nothing because of how they treated me. Yeah, right. I just stopped loving them. It's not something you can pull off, is it? Full of Hope. It's not something anybody can pull off. We there are a lot of parents out there that did really, really horrendous jobs. There really are, and I'm not saying
Believe
yours,
me,
but there's.
believe me, believe me, over the last 9 years, it's been an uphill battle with my mom.
Oh, I can't imagine. I truthfully can't.
I mean, eh eh I mean, anger, upset, torture, yelling, screaming, not talking, the whole 9 yards. Now that I talk to her a couple times a week, and we're on the phone for over an hour, you know, it because of the relationship I have with my father. It's like restarting a real relationship with my mom.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, it had to be really weird if you're in that situation and there's a bit of codependency where you really are addicted to taking care of somebody, and like Kathy said, um, you know, they take care of somebody to their own demise. When that
Mhm.
person's removed, your mom had to be going, "What the hell do I do right now?" It's not just losing your significant other; it's losing your significant other and the work of your entire life, right? Which has been trying to take care of this
Yeah,
person forever. I would imagine your mom must have really been lost.
she's a mess still.
I
She's
swear
still
these
very, very
enmeshed
depressed. She's
relationships run
alone.
deeper than normal ones. You know what? I know this is not the Kathy hour, but I really love that. Um, I swear these enmeshed relationships run deeper than normal ones. Uh, I think that there's something to that. I think that there's the reason that we've kind of coalesced as a unit.
Oh, yeah.
YouTubers say to me, "I can't believe you answer emails and and you answer comments." It just goes to show you how different what we do is than what everybody else does. It's getting to the point where doing that is really, really difficult. But the concept of not doing it just seems so
Mhm.
awful and wrong. But I'm working on a plan for that because as this grows. But I can't tell you how much respect I have for the courage this took to come on and do this. If you came on and did this 364 different days, if you had picked any of the other 364
Yeah.
days of the year, this would have been hard. Um, to come on and do this on the anniversary of your dad's passing, I think is just courageous as hell. And it's gonna
No.
take a day. Like, do me a favor, get your device onto the channel right now. I'm serious. If you get over to the channel right now and you put on the live chat, you'll be able to go back through it. And I think it would really benefit you to read all of the comments. I think it would really be a good thing. People, when the comments disappear and they don't work at the end, if you wait 24 hours on us, and I don't know why, but usually if you wait 24 hours and then you go back and hit live chat, it'll say live chat moved. Go right down to the comment, act like you're going to turn it on, and the live chat will appear. Trust me, this is really what happens because I go back and do this constantly. I owe my family and society as a whole a debt that I could never repay monetarily. Although I have repaid off all of my restitutions and fines, the only way I can really pay them back is to stay clean. Ultra Maggot, I love that, man. Holy hell, I love that. This is this is perfect. None of us are going to make up for the damage that we've done in the past. We can't. There's no chance. Whether we've paid it all off, whether we've done anything. but living clean is the greatest honor to every single person we stiffed. Every single person we didn't give the best shake to, any single person we lied to or did anything, the best that you can do is to live a good life, right? One that live like they're watching at all times, and
Tommy, I want you to know something.
all right.
My mom never had a memorial for my father. So this is my memorial for my father. And I'm
Oh,
sharing it with everybody here. She
well,
had him cremated, and that was it. She didn't have a eulogy. She didn't have a memorial service. This is why today, this year, was so important to me. I wanted to be able to celebrate his life before it hit 10 years. Otherwise, it would
well,
have been
I'm
thrown away.
well, I am sure glad that we had the opportunity to do this then. And it was funny because with everything that's been going on and trying to put this together, I was not even in the house. I was actually out really early this morning running errands already, and I texted Quietgirl and I just said, "Look, it's the 14th. Like we're doing this today. I don't know what we're gonna have to. Our clock's ticking. This thing goes up today, and it was typical Tommy. I said, "You ready to go? How about a half hour? Ready to do this?" So in short notice and everything else, I can't thank you enough for coming on and doing this and just being as honest and as open as you are with everybody. This isn't easy stuff, and if you're watching this and you've never sat in the little square next to me, this isn't easy, right? Am I telling the truth, Quietgirl? Yeah, I think you made this look easier than it is. I mean it. There's
I'll
been a
be
lot of
honest.
people in that chair. There have been a lot of people in that chair. And according to everybody else, this afternoon, be a little rough. You get a hangover. When you let all of this stuff out, you get kind of an emotional hangover. But according to the other people that have sat in that chair, come tomorrow morning, you'll ride about 4 days of feeling really good. Like you just got all of that out. If the opposite of addiction is connection, you just did it with everybody. Right.
Well, yeah, but I also did it. I mean, I looked at it like this is what I have to do. I cried a lot today. I went into a very deep spot after you did church yesterday, and which I thank you for. But without knowing what I was going to be doing, yes, it was hard, and I was running around my house going, "I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this," and I was crying and crying and crying. But it's not hard if you let your heart speak and let your words come. It doesn't matter how it comes out or how it's put together, as long as the message is there.
You know what we call that? Huh? That's guts.
What?
That's guts. It is. I'm dead serious. When you say I'm just going to let it all hang out and I'll deal with it. I'll deal with the emotion. I'll deal with all of the things that this is going to do because I need to get this out. That takes guts. And you know what? I hope everybody's paying attention. Go ahead.
One thing I tell everybody, never stop asking me questions. Whatever you want to know, my life's an open book. I don't mind. If you want to call me and cry in the middle of the night, I will listen to you. If you need somebody, I'm here. I'm not somebody to be afraid of. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm pretty much hooked to my phone.
This is a woman
like that. And
this is a woman that would be great to have in your 5. If that wasn't a good solid pitch for, hey, I'd be excellent in your 5, you guys know where to find Quietgirl. And people, build relationships. Get to know everybody here. Get to know the people here. Find out who you gel with. Find out who you mesh with. The people that make you laugh. The people that make you happy. Start trying very seriously to build these relationships. I am never going to get tired of saying that the opposite of addiction is connection. But I really hope you start listening because it is. Everything that she just went like this and dumped out for the entire world to see is not going to be doing any damage tonight. Right? It's gone. That's why we journal. It's why we do everything. Don't leave the hurt inside. Get the hurt outside. I promise you, you will live a better life if you communicate and you let people know the hurt, the happy, all of it. Share who you are. Share with people who are like you. You will find this is a much nicer place to be. It really is. Quiet girl.
Tommy.
I'm going to bust this out again, and we're going to do this will be for two people, right? Because your dad sounds like he did a hell of a job. Before anybody freaks out, obviously you probably don't want to take your kid to a bar at 4, but to say to your daughter, I'm gonna do a date night, just you and me, sounds like a pretty good dad. And all of the other things that you described, booze was there all the time, but your dad loved you, and it seems to me like he instilled some pretty beautiful values in you, right? So this is to your dad for fighting the fight and not winning, and this is for you fighting the fight that you're going to win. All right.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on the boat. Seriously, it meant a lot to me. And
I'm gonna do my sign off to you every night when you say goodnight to everybody. I always feel like this.
All right. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I didn't bring squirrel, and I don't do that when we do interviews. We kind of keep this straight. But I really appreciate you coming.
I was good. I was hoping Frank was going to make a. I thought my cat Frank was. I thought my friend Frank, my cat Frank was going to make a showing, but he didn't.
Well, yeah, they're always on their own schedule. I think that's how the cats get down. Yeah. God bless you all. Please be back at 5:00. This is not the 5:00 show. This was a tribute. So be back at the 5:00 show. God bless you, and thanks so much. Seriously, QG, that took guts, and you did it with style. God bless.
Thanks.